Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Slate's Edition Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called The Human in the ER, written by Eddie. Alex sighed and tapped his access band against the panel on the door. Another day, another shift on the station's emergency medical ward. Humanity was spreading across the stars, and the uptake of humanity, its culture, and its peoples was shockingly rapid. However, there was, as always, issues. As the on-staff human, he found his job was more often than not the assessment for the cause for the injury and deciding if the rather sizable human insurance fund set up by the Galactic Council would apply. Simply put, if a human was involved, it was Alex's job to work out what caused the issue. The Human Insurance Fund, or HIC, as it got shortened to, was created by the Galactic Council to cover the ever-growing number of injuries and damages caused by humans doing human things. It was officially introduced after one human was involved in a bet stating that he couldn't drive a shuttle at near light speed around the city and through its buildings. He succeeded, but the building suffered damage from the shockwaves, not to mention the injuries from the pressure wave. Stepping from the relative quiet of the staff access corridors into the bustle of the main section of the ward, Alex was accosted almost instantly by one of the other nurses, who handed him a data pad and pointed him towards a bed at the far end with an exasperated sigh and a glare that said everything Alex needed to know. Another human and a mess of his own making. Reaching the bed, Alex found a human cradling an arm that was badly bandaged and blood seeping through the bandages already, and a lichen with a clearly broken snout and several missing teeth. The two of them seemed to be rather companionable and seemed to be debating where to go for dinner. Resisting the urge to roll his eyes, Alex could feel the inevitable answers to his questions, but he had to ask them anyway. "Afternoon, I am Alex. I'll be conducting your intake interview, then administering what treatments are needed," he said as he glanced at the pad. "So you would be Sergeant Johnson." He gestured towards the human, who nodded in response. "And you would be Miss Cruelfang." The 7-foot wolf woman nodded in response. "Fantastic. And just for our records, could you explain how you both were injured?" The lichen's ears went flat, and she looked at the floor, while the sergeant looked at the roof like it held the answers to the universe. Alex resisted the desire to rub his temples. "Okay, I'm going to make a rough guess here. Just tell me if I'm correct." He glanced at the tablet he held, it having a list of their injuries. "You saw her at a bar, confused her with a candidate, and decided to flirt. The only thing you remembered about candid flirting was poking them on the nose is both an invitation to bed and a compliment." The sergeant let out a mumbled noise that could be assumed to be a confirmation. "Then you, being offended at someone daring to, 1, mistake you for a candidate, and 2, making such an inappropriate gesture, tried to savage his arm." The wolf woman nodded sheepishly. At this point, Alex did sigh and shook his head. "And the good sergeant's response was to punch you square in the snout." Another nod, this time from both of them. Alex looked down at his tablet and filled in the few boxes before circling human responsible in the reason and approved the HIC fund release. "One last question. Am I to assume that she was impressed with your fighting spirit, and now you're actually arranging a date?" The fact that lichen's tail started thumping on the bed that they were both sat on told Alex all he needed to know. "Well, congratulations. However, since your wounds are not pressing, I'd suggest you sit tight. I'll be—" Alex was cut off as the doors to the ER banged open and a trolley was wheeled in. "Right back," he finished before bolting towards the trolley. His attention pulled by the human woman who was following the trolley, and halfway between hysteria and embarrassment. Alex reached the trolley with enough time to see that on it was a rather large Croxian, whose pupils were blown wide. Putting the woman to the side, he got her seated and gave her a warm smile. "Please relax, ma'am," he said gently, and did his best to get her to calm down. "I didn't know. He stopped. We should have stopped when he mentioned tingling. I thought," was all Alex got. He noticed the woman was dressed in a bedrobe and slip-on shoes. He tapped the pad and started the entry. "It's okay. Just tell me what happened and we'll make sure he's okay," Alex said, eventually getting the woman to give him the full story. "Let me repeat that, just to make sure I have it clear," Alex said as he looked at his pad. "You and your husband were using flavored lube." Alex paused as the woman nodded, blushing again. "And you didn't check if the lube was species safe for your husband. It turned out the flavoring was a pretty strong narcotic, and he overdosed while, taste testing," Alex said. going over his condensed notes from the woman's halting and stammering story as she tried to give the critical information without embarrassing herself. She nodded again. Alex smiled. That's good news. He'll go into detox, get put on a drip for dehydration, and be out in a few days, right as rain, he said as he tapped on the pad. Now, if you go to the desk over there, tell them your husband's name. They'll get you pointed in his ward, Alex said, pointing to the information desk that was in the corner of the massive ER room. Waiting to make sure that she was heading in the right direction, Alex stood and started to walk back towards the lichen and the human that had attempted to flirt with her. Noticing that they were being treated already, he turned towards the side of the ER room to grab himself a drink before more issues arose. As Alex approached the small break station, which consisted of drinks dispenser, a single plastic chair that was never free, and a collection of mugs that no one seemed to know who they belonged to, he was slammed into and dragged sideways. Looking down, he was shocked to see it was finally Blue Harry's co-worker and maybe crush, Ballora. She was a Lasari. They were best described as bipedal snakes, albeit with pretty clear mammalian traits. They were also way stronger than most other species. That included humans. Dragged into one of the supply closets and door closed behind them, all he could see was the glow of her eyes glaring up at him. You missed the check-in again, she hissed at him, her annoyance stretching the sibilance of her voice. I didn't miss it. It moved. He responded, doing his best glare back, though trying to glare at a pair of glowing eyes was hard. It moved because you missed it, and keep your voice down, she snapped back, the glow dimming as she narrowed her eyes. I am being quiet. You're the one hissing, Alex said, though the moment he said that, he knew it wasn't the right thing to say. That's how I whisper. Focus. Her voice was slightly sharper now. He'd upset her with that comment. Focus on what? He said, trying to keep his voice down. You, missing check-in, she repeated, and shuffled a little at the cramped space. It moved, and I was down on triage because Alexandra didn't turn up, he pointed out, which caused the visible roll of her eyes. Because it's never your fault, she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Oh, bite me, Alex said back, more than a little fed up. Maybe I will, Ballora said, and he could hear the smile on her face. Alex flinched at the implication, which caused him to realize just how close they were in this tiny closet. You're very close, he pointed out, trying to reroute the conversation away from her threatening to bite him. It's a closet, moron, she said, her voice having its bite back. Yeah, well, maybe we should get back on the floor before someone notices, Alex pointed out. Fine, Laura snapped, before pushing her way out of the closet, though she did pull him out after her, holding on to him for a little longer than needed, or maybe he was just imagining things. The shift was off to a fine start. End of story. Story number 2, Idle Hands, written by Dom Manaya. You what? Krezel asked, staring long and hard at the human. I want fucking something to happen, John yelled out, monitoring the wide open field in front of them. Beyond that field was more field, and then more field, and there's a bit of wood surrounded by yet again more fields. Many joked that there was more grass on the planet than water. Why? Krezel squeaked out in shock. We have one of the cushiest locations in the galaxy. No raids, no rebellions. Hell, there isn't even much crime on this planet at all, he pointed up to the sky. 10 parsecs away, and they have almost monthly pirate raids. Why are you complaining our lives are not even at risk? John let out a long, deep sigh that came out from his very soul. Oh, look, I don't want to be sent to the front lines of anything. I don't have a death wish, and I am not one of those combat junkies. Don't worry, he grunted. It's just that there's nothing to do out here. We're just staring at some fucking field for fucking weeks doing nothing at all, he yelled. I just want something to happen other than wake up, take a shit, eat, patrol, eat, do work around the base, eat again, and then go to bed after a drink or two. He started to rub his face. Krezel blinked, looked at the human, back up to the field, then back to the human, who was now glaring so hard that Trelloc actually worried he was going to set the field on fire with his pure fury. But that means we are safe. We just do what we are told, we get paid, maybe get a promotion, and then we go home. It's perfect besides. You and the other humans are the #1 cause of trouble on this planet. John chuckled. The laugh did not reach his face. We cause trouble just to have something interesting to happen. Krez, the most interesting thing that happened in the past 2 months, not caused by us humans on the base, was when they started to import Kurzweiser heavy. Do you know how worried the local commissary was when we humans kept buying the whole stock every week? John leaned against the railing. We humans are not cut out for this level of pure boredom. We need something to happen, otherwise we go nuts. I mean, I don't even know what I did yesterday or Monday morning. Kezel paused a while. John, it is your human's Friday. I'm not sure why you should have a good memory of what happened that many days ago. John paused, let out another sigh, so hard that Kezel was worried that he was going to pass out. Then stuck his faceplate against the rail. Fucking hell, Kezel. I thought it was Wednesday, he confessed. The days literally blend together when it just gets boring. We lose track of time. Kezel let out another worried squeak. Should I alert the local mental health professionals? John let out a laugh. Oh, they know. Half of us have been complaining to them ever since we got deployed here. He looked up and stared at the endless, unending, infinite grass. Grass that had always been there, was there, and would forever be there since nothing happened on this planet. Well, why are they not worried? I mean, I get bored, but it starts to sound like you humans don't handle it. Kezel paused a long time. Wait, is that why you humans cause so many problems? The commander said that he never had this much trouble with humans before, but he was always had combat deployments. John finally grinned. Yeah, if it gets too boring, we have to make our own fun. The incident with the harbor loader a few weeks ago, that was a human loading crew getting too bored and finally deciding to find out if those loaders could be used as personal carriers. It was also so slow and boring they had enough time to weld all the armor plates on. Why did you stop the parties then? They seemed fun. It was the same place, the same drinks, the same people, the same time of the week. After the fifth time, it was such the same that even the partying got boring, he groaned. We need new things, fresh things. Hell, remember when James and Jokia hooked up and got together? Kezel thought for a bit. No, he slowly shook his head. Shit, that's right. You got black out when you tried to outdrink Mary. John chuckled a bit and patted Kezel's head. He wasn't going to admit to his buddy that Kezel came on too hard that night. He really liked Kezel, but no amount of boredom was going to make him out the dude before he was ready. But yeah, we got a saying about being too bored. Kezel tilted his head. What is it? He asked. Idle hands are the devil's workshop, John chuckled. If someone is too bored and doesn't have anything to do, chances are what they make is not going to be good. Kezel chuckled. You haven't caused anything too major recently, so I guess you are not. He looked over to the human's wide smile. What did you do? John smiled at Kezel in a way that made his scales itch. I got my hands on some decommissioned fertilizer launchers. Me and the boys have been testing alternate loads. Want to see when our shift ends? Kezel felt this was a bad idea. He knew how big the launchers were and how much power they had in them. Still, the shine in John's eyes and the lack of anything else dragged a "sure, why not" out of him. John patted his back and nodded before they looked out to the field. Oh, hey, there's a new flower over there. Kezel called out, pointing to a small weed. John's groan could be heard for miles. End of story. I'd quickly like to thank our Tier 5 channel members, Caspar Arnholt, John Creighton, Manatharia, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.